Not every warrior who changed the course of history became a household name. Some held lines that should have broken, defended peoples every empire had written off, bought time with their lives for civilizations that survived because one person refused to retreat. History tends to remember the conquerors. The man who sacks a city gets a chronicle. The man who holds a pass, staggers out of a siege with half his force, turns back an invasion through sheer force of will. He often gets a footnote. But his battle was no less desperate, his courage no less real. Crazy Horse understood something no uniform could contain: the refusal to accept that the world you were born into has already ended. Some warriors don't fight to win. They fight because stopping is not something they know how to do. The 20th century produced warriors that the soldiers of Rome or Carthage would not have recognized. Men who thought in terms of logistics, networks, tank columns, and air superiority. Yet the quality that made them great was identical across the millennia. The ability to keep fighting when everything around you argues for stopping. Patton was considered unstable by his own high command. Guillaume was a history teacher before he became a general. Rommel was consistently given resources everyone knew were insufficient. None of that mattered in the field. Washington held an army together through 2 brutal winters, through desertion, through supply failures, through a continental Congress that couldn't agree on whether to fund the war. That is a form of warfare, the refusal to let your own side disintegrate from within. Some of the most consequential military campaigns in history were fought not by empires, but against them. Bolivar crossed a mountain range that military planners considered uncrossable. Grant kept advancing when every tactical calculation argued for waiting. Zhukov fought the most mechanized war in history with an army that had been nearly destroyed, and won it. What unites these warriors across cultures and centuries is not a shared tactical tradition. It is the refusal to let the mathematics of a situation determine its outcome. Spartacus had no cavalry, no siege engineers, no treasury, no political backing. He had men who had been told by law that they were not men. He built them into an army that kept the most powerful republic on earth from sleeping soundly for 2 consecutive years. The odds were never his concern. The warriors in this section shared something their male counterparts never had to contend with: the assumption that they were not warriors at all. Zenobia conquered Egypt, while men in Rome debated whether a woman could actually command. Thamyris killed the greatest conqueror the ancient world had produced, and historians recorded it with visible discomfort. Rani Lakshmi Bai rode into battle with her son secured to her back. In every case, the disbelief of their enemies was an advantage they exploited without hesitation. Joan of Arc arrived at Orléans, where French commanders had been failing for months. She did not fail. The men who had been failing watched her do what they could not. She was 19 years old and had been told her entire life that this was not something she was allowed to do. medieval warfare has been romanticized almost beyond recognition. The armor, the chivalric codes, the great tournaments, these were real. But they existed alongside a form of combat that was profoundly physical, exhaustingly personal, and genuinely brutal. The men who excelled at it had trained since childhood, absorbed punishment that would end most modern careers, and fought in noise and confusion that military simulations barely approximate. Jan Žižka never lost a battle and fought his final campaigns without being able to see. Edward the Black Prince stood his ground at Poitiers and took the King of France prisoner. Ahmed Shah Durrani forged fractious mountain tribes into a force that decided the fate of the Indian subcontinent. And at Thermopylae, a Spartan king made a calculation that had nothing to do with survival. He chose the pass because someone had to, and whoever held it first held it in memory forever. The warriors who mastered strategy understood that the best battles are won before they begin, by choosing the ground, controlling the timing, shaping the enemy's psychology. Themistocles didn't defeat Persia in open water. He chose a strait where their numbers became a disadvantage. Vercingetorix didn't fight Caesar in the open field. He burned his own cities and forced the Romans into a war they hadn't prepared for. Robert the Bruce spent years in hiding before he won at Bannockburn. Skanderbeg held the Ottomans at bay for nearly a quarter century, with fewer men than a single Roman legion. Richard the Lionheart chose battle over governance his entire life, and never left a campaign in defeat. He lived as a fighter who happened to wear a crown, and the soldiers around him understood exactly what that meant. The military traditions of Asia and the Islamic world were not alternatives to European warfare. For most of recorded history, they were more advanced. The Mongol system of feigned retreat, drawing enemy cavalry out of position before encircling it, was studied by every major steppe culture for centuries. Yi Sun Sin's armored warships represented naval engineering Europe, would not develop for generations. Miyamoto Musashi reduced individual combat to a philosophy and then published it. Saladin's genius was not solely military. He understood that how you treat a defeated enemy determines the character of the next war, and every war after that. His restraint at Jerusalem was not mercy. It was the most sophisticated form of strategic communication available to him. Victory that produces permanent resentment is not victory at all. There is a category of warrior who doesn't simply win battles. He reshapes civilizations. The migrations he forces, the desperate alliances forged in response to him, the populations moved by fear. These outlast any treaty and transform the map for centuries after his death. Shaka Zulu rebuilt an entire military tradition from first principles, discarding inherited assumptions about how wars were meant to be fought. Charles Martel turned back an advance that had covered 3 continents in under a century, with no cavalry, on ground that gave him every disadvantage. Attila never captured Rome. He didn't need to. The empire spent its final decades reorganizing everything, its armies, its borders, its treasury, around the permanent possibility of him. When your enemy must restructure his civilization around the threat of you, you have already won. By this point in the list, the warriors share qualities so consistent, they begin to resemble requirements. They were students, men who read the campaigns of their predecessors and extracted transferable principles rather than colorful stories. They were present, not directing from a safe remove, but in the field, visible, sharing the same risk they asked their soldiers to accept. And they were composed in precisely the moments when composure should have been impossible. Wellington looked at the ridge at Waterloo and decided that was where the battle would end. He was not wrong. Gustavus Adolphus invented the modern combined arms battlefield and died in the middle of a cavalry charge, having told his generals to hold him back and understanding they never would. Hannibal studied Roman tactics until he understood them better than the Romans did, and then designed a response that has never been forgotten. At the very peak of any serious accounting of military genius, the same names recur, not because historians agreed to place them there, but because the evidence will not place them anywhere else. Frederick the Great faced coalitions that should have destroyed Prussia, and he won. Charlemagne built a unified Western Europe through decades of personal military campaigning. Khalid ibn al-Walid was removed from command, not because he had failed, but because his caliph feared victory had become attached to the man rather than to God. Caesar fought more campaigns than almost any Roman general before him, and was at the front in every one. Genghis Khan reshaped Eurasia so profoundly that its effects are still legible today. Napoleon Bonaparte won more battles than almost anyone who has ever commanded an army. Alexander built an empire stretching from Greece to the edge of India without ever being driven from a field of battle. He died at 32, and he wept, not from grief, but from the realization that there was nowhere left to go. The measure of a warrior is not simply what he won, it is what he made others believe was possible. By that standard, there has never been another Alexander.